Nick Richards? Is he the most improved player of the year? First half Kelly Oubre, no, better yet, 1-0 start to the Tankathon Hornets? What? It's all today, baby. We're going live. Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're being available anywhere you get your podcast. That man is Doug Branson. You can follow him on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH, and I imagine he'll put up a very happy little column at everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can go check it out again, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. You can follow me on Twitter at Walker Mail and the show handle on Twitter at Locked On Hornets. Go, Doug, go.
Stangin'! I just had to get my first stangin' of the year after that beatdown that the Charlotte Hornets put on the San Antonio Spurs. I'm happy again.
Now, this was going to be my first question. I saw you, and you didn't have a specific hat on. And I think that's probably the right call. But now it looks like you're digging for something. I don't know if you got it before. So I think it's probably the right call because it's the Spurs. Okay, we knew the Spurs were going to be Tank City coming into the season.
Oh, we're going right to the we're going right to the context. You're taking us right to the context.
Well,
can we not just bask?
No, don't do this. Don't do this. No. I was just asking if you
129 points in the debut game. You had so many great individual performances in this game, and you are trying to take us right to the context. Let's not talk about the Spurs. I want to talk about the Charlotte Hornets.
That is rude. All I wanted to do was ask you about the Big Dub hat and whether you thought it was worthy, but you're not going to wear it, and that's fine. We can wear. Is there a Nick Richards hat? Because that's what you need to be wearing right now. Nick Richards, man. Look, so I was at the coach's luncheon when he first said it. The comments, the tweet. I heard round Hornets Nation. Steve Clifford says that Nick Richards is the person he's been most impressed with this offseason. We weren't buying it. Then we weren't buying it in Summer League. We weren't buying it in the preseason couple of games to start off. Then he started to get a lot better. And Doug, your boy Nick Richards, to finish off the night, ends up with a stat line with 19 points, did eventually get that 10th rebound late in the game, so did get his double-double, 19 and 10. 8 of those rebounds were on the offensive board, as James Borrego likes to say, not plural, but board. That's what he got.
Bort,
so you got 19 and 10 for 21 minutes from Nick Richards, man. It was a really nice game to see him give you competent center play against a pretty good center, by the way, in Jakob Poeltl. Like that's, if you want to take some of the context and apply it, he's a good center despite this team looking like it's going to tank. So what'd you think of Nick Richards?
I thought he looked amazing. I'm looking at these chats right now. We've already got a chat from Gray Alexander saying Nick Richards, Defensive Player of the Year. Donald Duck saying, I like what he did defensively, to be honest, can see the improvements compared to last season. Look, I mean, yeah, Nick Richards was all over the place. He really look, the starters came out and played well, but then, when they broke the lineup, I was like, well, let's see what happens when they break the lineup. And Nick Richards came in and gave them just a ton of energy. His just intensity that he had when he was getting those offensive rebounds. You said it, 8 offensive rebounds. I think actually, ironically, his 10th rebound to give him the double-double was a defensive rebound. But Nick Richards,
because he had 8 and 1.
Look, man, I mean, and he was doing janitorial duty, just down beneath the basket, getting his hands in there, getting it, and putting it back in. Mop, bucket, baby. I love it. Nick Richards, looking good. I think, honestly, Walker, looking at him right now, I'm thinking, he got some minutes early in that fourth quarter with the starting unit because Clifford decided to stick with the starters to give him a little bit of rhythm play before he went to the beatdown Bees lineup. And I'm looking at him. I'm going, he fits with those starters, and I don't think it's the last we've seen of Nick Richards with the starting unit.
Well, I mean, you can't.
Shouldn't be.
I mean, this is the type of performance that's going to allow him to possibly sneak into the starting lineup. Because if you look at the total minutes logged for these guys, Mason Plumlee only had 22 minutes. Nick Richards had 21. Now, you didn't get anything from Mark Williams until the very end in trash time. 4. He did get his first 2 NBA points recorded. He went to the foul line and hit a couple of free throws. Did get you a defensive rebound in this one, but that was the center breakdown, right? Like Mark Williams, hopefully we'll talk about him later on in the season when he's starting to play well. Maybe we'll see him whenever, right? But Nick Richards comes in and tells you, yeah, man, this is what I've been working on this offseason. And then the season debut gives you a career high 19 points and gives you 10 rebounds. Did have the 1 block. And you're right with the intensity. It's the first time I think we've seen like, oh, you have a presence down low. Yeah. Like nobody looks at Mason. Yeah, right. Like, oh, we're here. Like Mason Plumlee doesn't scream that. Mason Plumlee is not the presence down low. Mark Williams might take a little time to cook, and he has that in his game when he gets better. The vision of Mark Williams is, oh, no, we got a presence down here. But right now, it felt like that with Nick Richards, with the dunks, with the screaming, with the stare down, with the fighting on the offensive glass. Like, nah, man, we had something physical down low tonight.
Yeah, and we didn't see, I think, the sort of the typical Nick Richards air with the basketball in his hands where you go like, what are you doing? That was Nick Richards last season and beyond. He has turned a corner, and I think the game has slowed down significantly for him. Obviously there are limitations with Nick Richards' game, but in terms of his passing ability, in terms of some of the other things that maybe some of the other, more versatile bigs can do. But if he can put in that kind of effort every night, it's not going to result in 19-10. I think part of that is a result of playing the Spurs, going back to your context. But I think, he can definitely put up way better numbers than he did last season. And honestly, he represents a couple of things to me. One is the patience that the franchise has had with him and developing him and saying, all right, I know we haven't seen it yet, but we see the promise. There have been signs, and we're going to stick with that. And the other thing is, Nick Richards is finally showing what everybody's been talking about. And that's what the whole team did tonight against the Spurs. Been a lot of talk about what they wanted to do. Push the pace on offense. Be physical on the boards. All these things they talked about at media day and in training camp. We didn't see it really until the very last game of preseason. And now we're seeing it here in game 1. It seems like they're starting to put a few of these pieces together that Steve Clifford wanted them to put together.
And Steve Clifford talked about that in the pregame interview with Eric Collins, saying we'll see exactly the type of improvement we made this offseason. We're trying to bring it all together. And you're right. Like everything they were preaching, you didn't see any of that in the preseason all that much. But then when we get to this one, yeah, it was great. Like, yes, context, Spurs, but you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You did. If you are a team that is going to be better than the Tankathon Wembanyama sweepstakes stuff, right? Like you got 129 points without LaMelo Ball. You beat the Spurs down. You held them to only 102. All the good things that needed to happen did, if you believe in the Hornets winning this year and in the present. So we'll not only talk about Nick Richards, there was plenty of guys that played pretty well in this game. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Kelly Oubre, first half. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you want me to do, but I'm excited to find out in the next segment. Jalen McDaniels had a couple of shots, but really it was PJ Washington, my boy. We'll get to all that in just a moment. Now, before we talk about BetOnline, BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, even golf. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. More Hornets win talk coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
Is Locked On Hornets.
But I have seen him go all the way up to number 10. Is there a warning? Do we need to get out of here?
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if you heard, but my watch went off, and I was trying to silence it, and then I accidentally hit ping the phone, and then the phone pinged, and now here we are. I'm doing my best, man.
It seems like you're doing your very worst.
Well, sometimes
it seems like I'm actively fighting you today to move.
Sometimes my best is my worst.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Thanks for joining us live. Maybe we're not your first listen of the day right now, which is understandable. 10:45 p.m. Eastern time. That's okay. But do make sure your second listen, your first listen could be us, all this reported on the podcast. And your second listen tomorrow can be Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Doug, you lead us off here, man. Where do you want to go? Like, there's a few different ways that we can go. Where do you want to steer the wheel?
Well, we're doing this live right now on our YouTube channel. YouTube, if you're listening, it's youtube.com/@ Locked On Hornets. YouTube's got these new handles now, so that's the new URL. We got a lot of people in the chat right now. 68 concurrent viewers. What's up? Topo! You remember that, Walker? Topo, that's what we say.
Do, Topo, baby. Hey, we're one away from a really nice Topo, by the way, so we appreciate it. Tell your friends. Join us, please.
Okay, Oog saying, driving out of the AT&T Center, let's go squad. That's what I'm talking about. Topo, Oog. Lance Kinghart says, I think they should develop their young talent more and tank this season. Lance King, I want you to listen to me, Lance King, if you're still watching.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell
you
him.
are out of here. You're ejected. I don't want to hear any of that tank talk right now. Topo, we won the game. That's what I want to talk about. All right. Let's see. Frank Ortega saying Melo was warming up. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, Walker. We've been getting video trickling in of our sweet baby LaMelo, our franchise savior, coming back from this left ankle injury that he suffered in the preseason. We saw him in practice a few days ago shooting in slides, and then I saw him shooting in socks, and then right before the game started, I saw him shooting in tennis shoes. That's got to mean we're getting close.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought we took a step back by just shooting in socks, because now we're losing the shoes if you don't have the slides on anymore. So I think that was probably a setback. But now that he's back in tennis shoes, really like the bounce back ability from LaMelo Ball. Hopefully he can get going sooner rather than later. In the meantime, plenty of players to go to here. I think if we're talking about the guys that improved a lot from last season in game one, and a lot, this being a small sample size, right? Like every podcast, every Locked On NBA podcast is going to have that type of caveat to speak under. So let's just talk about all of that under that umbrella, if you will. Please indulge me. PJ Washington did some stuff he hadn't done before, Doug.
Slim.
That was nice.
He's looking, I mean, I've seen him all preseason, so I don't know why this was a shock to me. I think it's because, like, I've seen him, but I really haven't seen him. I really haven't seen him utilize that new svelte physique that he's got. But on that chase down block that he had, okay, and here's why the chase down block, something I haven't really seen him do a lot of, but I think is part of the svelte form that he has now. That's why this is important, Walker. He did the chase down block because he closed hard out on the corner three and then had to recover. So there's nothing wrong with a chase down block when it's because you closed out hard and prevented a three-point opportunity, easy three-point opportunity. BJ, love it.
This is his stat line. 17 points, 2 blocks, 4 assists, 7 total rebounds, a couple offensive, 3 of 4 from deep, 7 of 12 from the field, 30 minutes played. That's PJ Washington, and that is a beautiful stat line, and you could see it out there. Step back jumpers, okay? Like 3-point. There was like what? There was probably like 3 shots he hit that was not a part of the PJ regime we saw last year.
That rhythm, I think it was in the fourth quarter, that rhythm 3 that he hit in transition. Looked like he was going like 1,000 miles per hour, stopped suddenly, and just dropped the 3. Whew.
But the point is, the reason I wanted to start here, Nick Richards, who I was not a fan of, and I was scared when I heard Steve Clifford say that. Nick Richards had a good game. If that is a consistent thing, then it will be something the Hornets did not have last year. PJ Washington, that's one where everybody was saying, is there something else offensively he can do? Can he take a step forward? Maybe he doesn't bring you all the way to the type of development where he's the leading scorer for this team, but can he do just some more stuff? Can he put the ball on the floor a little more? Can he do that step back? You know, can he score in more creative ways? PJ did that tonight. It's a great team to try it out on, but it worked. Like, he hit those shots. So if that's something that can become a part of PJ's game, if that's something that is real with Nick Richards, is that real Nick? Those two are the reasons why I think that's why I wanted to lead off with those two to start this show.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you with a team stat too. 10 total blocks in this game for the Charlotte Hornets, 7 steals. I mean, that's a lot of extra opportunities. And a lot of people in the chat right now jumping in with the context. So let's go ahead and say it. Yes, a lot of young players for the San Antonio team. They look completely discombobulated at times. They did make a little bit of a run there I want to say that was the third quarter Big Spurs run, 13-2 run in that third quarter.
It got down to like 12 or 15, something like that.
Yeah. So again, that was an opportunity for the Hornets to fall apart. They didn't, but there is some context there. But the Hornets were handsy. They had the right mentality. Like if they take that mentality, they're not going to look. I don't think this team is like built to really beat the elite teams regularly. But if they take that kind of same mentality to a mid-level NBA team this season, they'll be competitive, which I think is more than we could have said about them after preseason, right?
Yeah. For sure. The fact, look, this is a pick'em game, by the way. Let's not get it too twisted.
Yeah, our friends at BetOnline had this at -1 Hornets.
Right. The context, it's important. We get it, right? It was a pick'em game. This is not something, I mean, maybe people bet on the Hornets to cover this big, but I mean, man, it was almost a 30-point victory for the Hornets. They did well, and I don't think any of it was like, Nick Richards was probably weird. Nobody expected that. PJ Washington with the style.
Rod Boone did, to be fair. Rod Boone, and he was he was tooting the victory horn on Twitter. Our guy Rod Boone of the Charlotte Observer was like, "I told you,
one game victory laps, man. That happens with everybody. They are,
but to be fair to Rod, he has been tooting that victory. He has been tooting that horn for like a year and a half. He's been on the Nick Richards bandwagon, and let's let him have his day. He finally gets to celebrate.
We have plenty more to get to. Let's.
Well, can I mention one other player that I spied? We're doing a little I Spy game. I love the I Spy game.
No, I have plenty of players that I spy. I didn't know if you wanted to play this in the third segment, but go ahead.
No, I want to keep playing it right here in the second segment because some people in the chat are playing it too. And I spied 3 letters: D, S, and J. Dennis Smith Jr., my goodness, let me read the box score line. The box score line is not going to overwhelm you, but when you consider what I think anyone realistically expected from DSJ, this was a great game. 5 of 7 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3. What? DSJ can hit 3-point shots? That's crazy.
And one of those was ridiculous, by the way. That was not. that was oh God, this is going to be a turnover if I don't get this thing up. But hey, he hit it, so great shot.
12 points, plus 28 on the game, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Dennis Smith Jr., 2 steals, 2 blocks. I told you guys that he was pesky on the defensive end. 4 assists, 2 rebounds. Walker, if Dennis Smith Jr. can do this or anything close to this for the rest of the season, we're talking about a backup point guard and a center that have come out of essentially nowhere for the Charlotte Hornets. The 2 things that they needed.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? Because here I'm talking about leading off with the stuff that you didn't have. So the defensive-minded backcourt mate, especially, look, one thing that I completely forgot about as we're planning the show, okay, this is legit too. So I completely forgot about this, and actually a pretty decent-sized storyline. Cody Martin plays 5 seconds. So he's out. Yeah. Unfortunate, immediately leaves the game.
Right.
Thought it was bad also very quickly. And you could see it on Cody's face. He was not pleased. Nobody's going to please when they're injured, but also it looked, that was a quick designation, man. You know what I'm saying? Like as soon as a player gets hurt and then it's not shortly after you see it on Twitter, nah, he's not coming back in. It's going to be rough for them. Hopefully he can come back as soon as possible, but DSJ does help you defensively. That was always going to be the better defensive pickup compared to all the other backup point guards you could bring in, and looked good, man. Shout out to him coming back home. It's been a young career to have that kind of journey bouncing around to a couple of different franchises, especially as a lottery pick. Happy to see him do some good things tonight.
And I don't think a lot of people question his shooting ability. So he's got some answering to do for that. But I don't think a lot of people question his just raw talent. It's really been about staying healthy the past couple of years. And so that question is going to linger until, he's playing 50 plus games in a season because he's barely been able to get to 40 throughout his career. So that question remains. On the Cody Martin piece, that is really tough because they were saying it was a quad injury. He's been battling left knee soreness, what they called left knee tendinopathy. They said that, essentially the ramp up to the season had done something to his knee. And now you wonder if trying to battle back from that and get ready for that, he missed 4 preseason games, played in the last one, is that having some sort of ripple effect that's causing this quad issue. They just re-signed Cody Martin. So, like, the only move they made in the offseason. and if, I'm sure they're going to be careful with it, but you got to get that guy back. Hopefully, 100%.
Well, and defensively, I don't think anybody is touting this team as the bad boys. So we're going to figure out if just how good they are.
Who knows? I mean, with this Big Nick energy, I mean, you never know.
All right, I'm going to move on after that. It's a fantastic joke. I'm here for it, but also I have to move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We have more players to get to. We're not done saying all the positive stuff about this team. I wanted to get to more players. Doug wants to I Spy and just do a 2-segment show, but we have one more segment to go. We need to fill it. Luckily, we have plenty of content. Let's actually get to kind of the usual suspects for the Hornets, especially, I guess, when they're healthy. That's coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Walker, sometimes you don't have to have the best package.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to have the only package. If you wait, if my dating life taught me anything, sometimes you just have to wait around long enough until you're the only thing remaining. And then suddenly you look pretty great in comparison.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You got to chat, Doug. I know on James Bouknight.
I'm just feeling this night, man. Yeah. This feels so good after so many weird storylines this offseason. This felt cathartic. It felt therapeutic. It felt cleansing is what it felt like. And, it's funny. I did this like pregame stream on the Locked On Hornets YouTube channel where I did like 2K, and it was a great time. People came on. We chatted. It was fun. I want to do more of those this season, but I did a prediction at the very end. I said Hornets win 115-107, and I looked in the fourth quarter. They scored 115. The problem was that there were 6 minutes left to go in the game.
It's a good way to miss. That's just fine. All
right, let's look at this YouTube chat. A lot of people up in the chat. Thank you for supporting the show, by the way. Thanks for getting in here on the chat. Michael saying it was great. We still played so well without LaMelo. Yeah, I mean, you hate missing LaMelo, and I think they play differently. They play ultimately in the long term. They play better with LaMelo, but it's nice when everybody can step up and when your best player's out. Memphis, mature teams do that. Memphis did that when John Morant was down. Other little role players stepped up, like Desmond Bane and all these guys that you never heard of, and Nick Richards. That could be his kind of role for this team. Let's see. DSJ John saying point of attack defense too is great for DSJ. And then let's see. Blake saying, how about Bouknight playing tonight? So there's that. Yeah, that storyline yes. Still there. We saw him. It was weird seeing him warm up a couple of days after he was arrested for suspicion of DUI. The details of that story don't look great. What do you think, worse, Walker? Man. He gets in there because of the Martin injury.
Yeah, James Bouknight details that keep coming out about this arrest, they're all getting worse. And Joe Bruno and WSOC had that later and had that first today, but had the later updates that finally took place with him. And so apparently, James Bouknight found unconscious, blocking traffic. It was running. It was in drive. The police find him. They bring out air horns. They are trying to get him to wake up for over an hour in the car. Reportedly, all this is reportedly. And James Bouknight apparently wakes up and eats, which maybe when we find it appropriate to find the comedic value in some of this, we can talk about him eating as soon as he wakes up, and then decides to leave the car after that. That's how they're able to wake him up. He also had a Glock in his lap. Now, that was pending a permit, I believe. And so somebody commented about us not talking about how it was legal enough. I do want to stress that I think it was pending a permit, if I'm not mistaken, so or the license to carry. So that just throwing that out there. So all the details, they're worse. And James Bouknight played. Doug, did you have a problem with James Bouknight out there on the court after all this?
I do, because I don't have any other than the details that we're getting from the reports, from the police reports. I need some other details. I mean, now James Bouknight did speak to the press and apologized for being a distraction. But didn't apologize for anything else, for the actions other than being a distraction, as far as I can tell from that. Maybe I'm wrong there on the apology, but yeah, I do have a problem, because I think without a counter explanation, without some other details coming from the team or from James Bouknight, then I think we're getting closer and closer to this looking as if the franchise condones the behavior that is being reported.
Yeah.
I think that's the difficult part of this, is I don't know how people are supposed to interpret it, other than like, well, we sure could have used, well, obviously they could have used the depth, because, you're one injury away, and then, they utilize James Bouknight, but it's a weird position that I think everyone's in that knows about what's going on.
So just a few more, just to clean it up. I mean, everything I said was basically right. He ate the food inside the car and then crashed into two CMPD patrol cars, one in front and one in behind, after he woke up from a bunch of noise they were throwing at him for reportedly over an hour. Court records said Bouknight eventually got out of the car, was taken into custody. Last thing I'll read here is that he told a paramedic at the scene that he had approximately 4 shots of tequila before driving home, and a breathalyzer test later confirmed his blood alcohol content was 0.14. So DWI, BAC was at 0.14, and all of that happened as the details come out. We would learn more, and none of it looked great. I wouldn't have played him either, especially with this team right now having the reputation that it does, and you don't want that reputation. And especially if we're talking about James Borrego, one of the reasons he was fired, reportedly again, for lack of accountability that he held his players to. And then this happens because, James Bouknight, like, it would be one thing if this is a one-time thing too, Doug. If this was the only incident that we had seen, people still might not want him to play. But the fact that he has a history of reckless driving, we can be sympathetic to whatever addiction he might have to alcohol. Like, I don't know. But I do know that he was forced to enter a rehab program in college. This was reported in 2019. I don't know about the addiction that he has. I have sympathy for that 100% if that's true. What we do know is that he has a history of reckless driving. Some of this is his own accord. At some point, this history are his decisions that he's making. And at what point, how do you get it through to James Bouknight? You can't speed 30 miles consistently over the speed limit. You can't do that, or you're going to get a citation. And certainly if you have alcohol in your system, you're going to get something worse.
Well, I don't think he's the only, well, I'll just say this. Like, I don't think he's the only NBA player that's like speeding and I mean,
I don't,
but it's the driving.
I don't want it to be like, oh, he's speeding, and now, the cops are just being too harsh on him. Like, if you look at how fast he's recorded to go in some of these, some of these areas that he's speeding in, it's like 40 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's a pattern of behavior that seems to indicate that he's not a big fan of following, guidelines, following rules. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult situation.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I blurted out.
Well, it's just weird watching him, and it's weird and it's weird with the broadcasters not mentioning any of this, as if none of it happened. And I understand why they don't, but that's the position. The position becomes weird because you're playing this guy 4 days after he was arrested for suspicion of DUI. It's just,
we can move on after this. My guy C-Dog is writing in, Walker and Doug, get out of here. MFers drink and drive every day. Did he kill anyone though? Like, it's a good point, man. Did he kill anyone? No, you're right. C-Dog's got it.
No, that's one of the stupidest thing. C-Dog, that's really one of the stupidest. And listen, it is honestly a high bar in this chat, because we've had to endure a lot of LiAngelo stands saying ridiculous things, but that is the stupidest thing I've seen in this YouTube chat so far, hands down. Congratulations, you win.
Doug, who else was going stupid? Outside.
By the way,
Nick
James Bouknight was 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. If anyone wanted to know, zero
didn't
points.
Look good, yeah.
One personal foul,
that's
one
not
assist.
something I like. You know, I don't want him to. You know,
I'm just
right.
reading you the box score lines. All I'm doing.
Sure. Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, the veterans on this team, looked good. Gordon Hayward, 29 minutes, 6 of 11 from the field. Did it exactly how we thought Gordon Hayward might do it. You know, did go to the foul line more so. He'll have those games. Sometimes we get mad at him for not being aggressive enough, Doug, but he did go to the foul line, shot it 7 times, made all of them, scored 20 points, had a few too many turnovers, but Gordon got to his spots and hit. Like, this is it, the shots that he made, the 6 of the 11 that he took, like, it looked like Gordon Hayward shots, mid-rangers. He did have a couple of dunks that made Eric Collins very happy. That in turn made me very happy. But I want to talk about Terry Rozier. I want to talk about PG T-Row. Made some pretty good decisions, man. Like, maybe there was the one time I thought he held a guy on his back too long doing the pin on his hip thing. But other than that, that's nitpicking. That's just a play that I remember. Everything else pretty good. You know, I liked Terry Rozier with the ball in his hands, and this one, 24 points for Terry Rozier. Ooh. Did the 3-point thing, 4 of 7 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, 10 of 19 from the field, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. I liked Terry. He just seemed like the grown-up out there, and you need that for this team, certainly. Gordon and Terry, man, the guys that we're not talking about nearly as much because you might expect that stat line from them more so, still deserve some love here as we end the show.
Well, Dale Curry mentioned this in the broadcast, too. What a luxury that the Hornets have in having Terry Rozier, because you get to slide him over into the point guard position. And we've probably underrated his playmaking skills over the years, because he has, in most of the situations that he's been in his NBA career, he's been looked to be that microwave scorer, that certified gamer that we've come to know and love. We love him to play a little bit more defense, and he's vowed to do that this season. But playmaking is something that we haven't always asked him to do, and certainly when you have LaMelo, you don't need to lean on him as much to do that. But he had a pass to Gordon Hayward where he really,
awesome pass.
I mean, it looked LaMelo-ish. I mean, like, I could have seen LaMelo do something like that. The way he threaded the needle, the distance that the pass had to travel, the number of Spurs it had to travel through to hit Gordon Hayward in stride for the bucket. Love the little two-man game they're developing. Also, Terry Rozier managed to do that and destroy Joshua Primo's ankles. Did you see that? I mean, Joshua Primo was like,
it's the cartoon fall down. He slips for 5 seconds.
Well, it wasn't quite. What was that, Marcus Smart on opening night, where that was truly.
Well, that was premeditated. That was something he tried.
I've expended
to do
a lot of energy. I'm like Nick. I'm not like Nick Richards of this podcast. I've really just expended a lot of energy. I've been on camera a lot today.
Yeah, you really have. Whether it be you playing video games, whether you just actually talking some Hornets, you are a true YouTuber. You are through and through a YouTuber, Doug.
Kai Jones hit a 3-point shot.
He
did it this game. I feel like one of those, like, just kind of salesman. This game had everything. It's got Kai Jones 3-pointers. It's got Terry Rozier breaking ankles. This game has everything.
It was awesome. They got the dub. I'm excited.
Plumlee hit a shot with his right hand. This game had everything.
So, rotation stuff. PJ 30 minutes, Gordon 29, Mason got the start with 22, Kelly 23. We didn't talk about Kelly. 13 points. He was awesome in the first half. Said some nice things at halftime. Has been having the right attitude. First half, he was very good attacking, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he was attacking the rim. Only one made field goal that he had was from deep, and then really did a nice job. Doug, I don't remember. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but I do not remember ever last year Kelly Oubre actually passing when he did drive and having one that nice on the wraparound.
Had a little wraparound.
I'm sure it exists. I just am telling you, I don't remember Kelly Oubre passing.
Wrap around the Rosie. Pocket full of posies.
But you're here for the context of the second half. I can see it on your face, Doug. I brought you. I can see it. You want to tell us about it?
Well, I'm like you in the first segment. I got to come in and I got to be the Debbie Downer. I got to say that he comes out in that second half, gets the 2 quick fouls in transition, just bad defense, lazy defense, leading to fouls. Gets his 4th personal, misses the entire third quarter, just throws his whole rhythm out. Because he was just asleep coming out of the second half. Look, Kelly says a lot of things, and I'm glad that he's saying them. But I think I'm inclined to believe that I think Kelly has whatever he thinks he was, because he said he wants to get back to his roots, go inside out. That's fine. Whatever he thinks he was, he hasn't been that in a long time. And I think once you evolve as an NBA player, it's very tough to, excuse me, it's very tough to, it's been a long day, I've been on camera a lot, I have a baby.
Yeah, clear that thing up.
It's tough to devolve. I think once you become something and you identify as something in the NBA, it's really tough to go back all of a sudden and get to that place. Well, I'm scared about Terry Rozier and his defense too. Like, again, a lot of people saying the right things. We'll see if the commitment holds when they play the New Orleans Pelicans in the home opener. They just beat the pants off of the Brooklyn Nets. I believe that final was like 125-108. So, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, those are going to be 2 huge tests for the Hornets in the home opener. We'll see if a lot of this stuff holds then.
I want to give my boy Jalen McDaniels a quick shout out. Not impressive stat line, but how about McDaniels solidly in the rotation, like hardcore.
First off
Steve
the bench.
Yeah, Steve Clifford riding with him, and I thought played well defensively. I thought also had the nice takeaway, and then tried to go coast to coast. Eventually lost it. I thought there could have been a foul there, but hit an open 3. Took only a couple of them. But it's exactly what you want from McDaniels, not having to do, just running up and down the floor. I thought he did a great job of beating his man down the floor, led to an opportunity in transition. I think maybe Terry Rozier hit him. But just works hard out there. I thought he was good. So that's just, of all the storylines, McDaniels playing 23 minutes, JT Thor playing 8, Jalen also playing well defensively. That's something I wanted to note there, just as we kind of looked at the rotation heading into this game.
A bad night for us several years ago, being big fans of Devin Vassell. He had a really rough night.
And I still am, but yes.
We couldn't have stand harder, and he looked absolutely awful. It was also a bad night for the More Thor movement. He only gets 8 minutes.
That's
Again,
right.
You were just talking about Jalen McDaniels. The flip side of that is that Thor really is the backbencher at this point to Jalen McDaniels. I think, and I'm not really trying to short Jalen McDaniels here. I just think that has an opportunity. I think there's still an opportunity to showcase Thor in certain matchups, certain opportunities for Thor, I think still exist. I don't think, I'm just trying to speak directly to the More Thor movement. I'm telling you, the meeting is next Thursday at the Moose Lodge. We'll all get together and talk about More Thor. But until then, I just want you to keep hope alive that Thor will be seeing more minutes in the future.
Well, and plus, as the Jalen McDaniels fan club leader, I think we can combine forces, both of them on the floor together.
No, there can be only one. It's like Highlander. There can only be one 6'9", 200-something pounder on your rotation.
Okay, I didn't know those rules. I want them to combine forces and make one big-time JT Thor McDaniels transformer and just be everywhere all the time. That'll do it. Thank you, Hornets fans.
What a show.
Thank you, Locked On Hornets listeners.
Hey, real quick, because we've been doing this live. I hate to interrupt you because I know you're trying to end the show. You're trying to go to sleep. I get it. I can't sleep. I have a baby. But I did want to shout out all of the people who have been on the live chat. Thank you so much for supporting the YouTube show. If you're listening to this, youtube.com/@ Locked On Hornets. YouTube has these handles now. Also, shout out Moby Dick on the chat.
Yeah, where'd you get your hat?
Yeah, he wants to know where I got this hat. I did get it online. Hat Club, I think they do these releases and things get nabbed pretty quickly, but I think they still have this. So Hat Club, look it up. They have some pretty dope hats. They don't do a lot of Hornets hats, a lot of baseball hats, but occasionally they'll throw some NBA in there. But yeah, I love this hat. It's one of my favorites.
Okay, we got a lot of people watching, and you keep bringing up good points. I don't want to end it. Somebody did say, hey, we had John McDaniel. Nice block from JT, though. You're right. JT did. The More Thor movement, I think you guys are saved because that block was awesome from JT. So you got
the problem is JT gets the nice block. Jalen McDaniels also had, I think, a pretty sick block, too.
Oh, yeah, he took it. Yeah,
but the problem is that he had the block on a night when there were 10 of them. Like everybody was swatting shots. So it gets lost.
It's Oprah out there. All right. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every single day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. Great to talk about a victory. We will be able to preview the Pelicans game and then recap that the following Monday. So make sure you check us out anywhere you get your pods. YouTube.com/@LockedOnHornets is the YouTube handle now. Did I get it?
You got it.
Sweet. I feel great about it. Go check it out. And you can join us when we do this live stuff. And then when we just release videos of every single one of our podcasts up to that YouTube page. Have a great rest of your night if you're joining us live. Have a great rest of your day if you listen to us tomorrow. We'll be back to preview the Pelicans game.
The Bees are back, and they are stanging.